Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends, as this video is brought to you by drroto.com.
Good morning, my friends. We're back again for another exciting week in the PGA. I'm Johnny Danger. With me, as always, Mr. Adam White. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. I was just smiling to myself about how you call it another exciting week of golf that you watch absolutely none of. But
I don't know what you're talking about. I follow it like a hawk, my friend, an absolute hawk. Anyways, this is In the Cup, brought to you by drroto.com. Please make sure you go check us out for all of our baseball, our golf, our off-season football coverage, and all of the rest of the stuff. And Adam White's behind the paywall, beautiful breakdown of each week's PGA contest. This week is the Memorial, my friend. I don't want to talk about last week, so let's just skip right into this week. I don't want to talk about it.
Last week was, we'll just move forward. We are going to the beautiful Muirfield Golf and Country Club in Dublin, Ohio, just outside of Columbus. Must be mentioned, Ohio is the worst state ever for a number of reasons. It's a 73-player event, limited field. It's invitational only, similar to the Masters. We're going to have 50 players and ties make the cut this week. So that means a lot of players relative to the number in the field are going to be playing on the weekend. Might we get a little risky this week, Danger, because of that?
You know that I will. You know it.
I think we will. Yours truly has been to this event a couple times, considering popping down there on Friday as well. It's a very pristinely manicured par 72. So we got 4 par 5s this week instead of 2 last week. So it plays into the hands of a much different type of golfer. It is a just under 7,600 yard par 72. We've got 3 par 3s between 200 and 220 yards. And we've got some long par 4s, anywhere from 480 to 500. We got 4 or 5 of those. So we have a lot of approach shots from 175 to 225 coming into these greens. And it doesn't hurt to be good from around 250 or more to get in these par 5s into. It's pretty undulating as far as the elevation changes and the green slopes. The interesting thing to me, though, is that they actually have a considerably lower 3-putt percentage at this course than they do at most events. So that one kind of stuck out to me. You definitely want some guys that can score on these par 5s, but greens are quick. We've seen in the past as well, just talking about what kind of differences we see in this course, guys that are not necessarily good putters, and also guys that don't even putt well that week can really do well at Memorial. So if you are striking your ball well, you can really separate and still score very well here if you're not putting like Denny McCarthy does, which is interesting. You got a lot of different guys that have good course history. So we talked about it pre-show. You got a couple very elite plays, I think, up top. So I think it's an interesting week as far as the roster construction sets up. From a game theory perspective, I think we have a nice thought process on our hands to figure out a little bit of a unique lineup, knowing where a lot of guys are going to go, either Scotty or Xander, and then working our way down. But it must be mentioned, this is Jack's place. It's his creation. It's his course. He's got his hands all over this place. This is kind of his baby. He's from the area, went to school at Ohio State. This is kind of what he created to be a little bit of his Augusta, if you will. So we've seen a variety of different types of players do well here. With a limited field, I don't know. I don't think you're going to see like David Lingmerth pop up like you have in past years. Just a random like tour journeyman that comes to the top of the leaderboard. But going to be an exciting week, as you said. I know Danger will be tuned in, glued to his TV every single day of the coverage. Let's get to a little bit of the field, the players who we're liking, where we can differentiate.
I like it. Well, we're right back to do we Scotty or don't we Scotty? Honestly, I don't feel as big of a slam dunk this week.
All right.
Maybe that's just a gut feeling. Maybe it's I want to save a little money because everyone else is so cheaper. I mean, my favorite play of the week is Xander, man. I think he's coming back out hot. He's fired up. He's angry at the PGA bosses. And I think he's a guy that plays well when he's angry. And he's going to save me almost $2K, man.
Yeah, he's what, 1.6 less than Scotty. I still think from a betting perspective and who you're going to anchor your lineup with, Scotty's the play. So Xander hasn't finished top 10 here in any of his last 5 appearances. That is notable. This is a very course history carryover type course, so you have some course horses here. I don't believe that's the case as much a lot of weeks. Scotty finished 3rd here last year, and he lost over 2 strokes on the greens. He hasn't lost strokes putting in 6 consecutive events, which, given where he puts his approaches and how many 12 to 20 footers he has for birdies, is actually pretty impressive. So I like Scotty as far as who I'm going to anchor my lineups with. The interesting thing to me is who's going to be that next guy down that a lot of people go to kind of give you an.
Pre-show, I told you I started my first lineup with both Scotty and Xander. It gets a little ugly when you do it, but it can be done. Also, I did a second lineup with Xander and Colin Morikawa, and that looked a lot better, to be honest. That looked pretty good to me. I enjoyed that. But I'm not a big Hovland fan this week, but I don't think that you can really go wrong with Rory, Xander, or Scotty to start your lineup this week. I think they're all going to be in contention. I like the top of the field. You don't hear that a lot from me. Usually I like to start cheaper, but I like the whole top of the field. And I can dip that down into the 9K range too. I like Colin. I like Aubert. So I'm feeling very top heavy. It's very difficult for me who I like to find my values because I just like these guys at the top.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you can make a good argument for any of the guys in the 10K range. I mean, Victor's defending champ. Rory's Rory. If Rory's the lowest, it looks like Xander is, at least as far as my projections go, is the least popular of those 4 guys up top. If he's around half of what Scotty is and he offers me a $1,600 discount in tournaments, I'm probably going that direction. I don't think their upside is all that different. Either one of them could run away from the field, but I'm starting to really enjoy putting this lineup together with Scotty and Xander, because you've seen years past where 2 guys kind of run away from the field at this event, and that could very well happen this week. So I don't mind Scotty Xander if you can make it not hideous down toward the bottom, which is kind of a challenge. But there are some guys in the low 6K that we like. So
we have some pretty very different ownership ranks this week in your model and my simulations. I've got Victor Hovland down at 12%. I've got Scotty and Xander up over 30. I've got Rory at 25. So if defending champ, I already said I wasn't a big fan of Hovland this week, but defending champ at 12 instead of 36% owned.
Well, yeah, 12 instead of what I'm seeing is his projection is 20.5 on my site. So yeah, well, I think we can keep an eye on that. I think what we should do is probably monitor whose projections are more accurate. But
sure.
Transitioning into the 9K range, though, it's hard not to like Morikawa with the way he's been playing.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably take him over Hovland straight up at $400 less. So I can see why he's going to be pretty popular. Ludwig, I'm tempted on because he's coming off an injury. He hasn't been around since the PGA. Is his knee fully healed? If it is, the course sets up really, really well for him. It's just hard to see that being the case. Even though Cantlay has great course history here, he's got a win and I think a second as well. I just can't. He's been playing such piss poor golf. It's like he's still in the 9K range just because of what he's done in past years, but he is not the same player this season. So I don't have much interest there. The guy that kind of gets me a little interested is Matsuyama. He's had some great tournaments here. Hasn't been great as far as course history lately or recent form, but Matsuyama can pop at any time. You go back to what he did at Riviera this year, he had kind of been under the radar, not really playing all that great. And all of a sudden he comes out, kind of finds his form. He hadn't had a top 10 in the previous 5 events, and he comes out and just laps the field, shoots a little 63 or 4 on Sunday. So,
hey, Adam, what if I told you that I could start Xander, Colin, and Decky in my lineup? Still doesn't look that gross to me.
Okay. Tell me about the rest of the grossness. We're not like a build lineup show, but that's...
No. But I mean, I got love for my man Tom Hoge. You know it. We'll get to him in the 7K. But in the 7K range, dude is averaging 80 DK points a week in the tournaments right now in the 7K range. That can't be ignored. It can't be ignored for me.
No, and I can understand the logic there. I mean, he does show up as a value as far as his projections relative to his price. And, it's not a course where you have to be a bomber. It does help to be able to reach these par fives and two. But Hoagie is very good on the approach range we mentioned, which is kind of that mid to long iron 175 plus. So I don't know why, but I don't find myself wanting to play Hoagie very often unless it's like at Pebble or RBC or something, one of these short courses. But that's probably more of a flaw on my own way of thinking, because he does actually play pretty well from those longer distances, and he has shown he can contend on some of these longer courses. So I think Hoagie's really hitting his stride as a tour player now and gaining confidence year after year. Right. If we are transitioning down to the 7K range.
No, we can talk about the 8K range. Obviously, I'm not going to touch it because I'm going to play 2 9K and above guys. And so, maybe 3 even. So, I mean, the 8K range for my lineup build this week is just straight out. I can't do it. I've got nothing. I can't reach it with who I want to play at the top. But tell me about it anyways.
Well, let's say that you want to create a unique lineup for a tournament, and you're not going to start in the 10K range at all. And you go, hey, you know what? I love Morikawa this week. Let's start with Morikawa and Decky. And then you can start looking at some of these guys in the 8K range.
Well, I love Benny Ann, and when he's in the field and he's significantly less than the top end, I usually move my finger down to click that guy.
Yeah, which I understand. He hasn't played all that well here in the past. He had a T24 last year in 28 rounds. He really hasn't gained many strokes in the field. He's missed 3 cuts in a row before a DNP in 22 and then 24th last year. Now, that being said, we've talked about it. He's rounded a corner. He's a different player now. He's gained some distance, obviously gained confidence, contending in the Masters, things like that. So, yeah, I can't talk you off of him. The guy that I actually like, and this is a weird one, great course history here. Now, he didn't do well at the Masters or RBC where he normally plays well. He tends to play well at the same course each year, but that is Jordan Spieth. If he can keep his short putting in order, I think Spieth is a great play this week. He's going to make a lot of birdies. He always does here. And I have him at sub 10%. I don't know what you got as far as your projection, but
I got him at 9.92.
Now, I think he's broken. I hope he plays well this week, ropes some people in to play him at the U.S. Open next week, because he's a straight fade for me. I might bet on him to miss the cut at Pinehurst. But with that being the case, I do kind of like him this week. I'm looking at Homa, Connors, Henley as the super, super popular guys, which I think is definitely going to be the case.
So let me ask you about a guy who you just skipped right over. Let's talk about Sahith Theegala. Dude basically was a lock for top 20s almost the entire year and totally bombed out at the Canadian Open. Are you concerned about him? Was it just an off week? Are you getting right back on the saddle?
Yeah, I do think it was just an off week. With the way the schedule sets up, I think if he wasn't an RBC dude, he probably wouldn't have played the Canadian Open. His approach play was off. He normally gains on approach almost every week as well as putting. So he had an off week in his main 2 areas of strength, which is approach and putting. Now, this is a little more forgiving course off the tee. So I can definitely see some merit to Sahith after burning a lot of people last week. I actually do have him as the second highest or third highest projected point this week in the 8K range. So yeah, I like Sahith. And then the guy who's been playing well outside of the PGA, 2 of the last 3 weeks he's been solidly inside the top 10 is Sungjae. I think old Sungjae is back. It took him a while to kind of break out of his little slump. From what we've heard from his caddy, Mr. Willie Wilcox, he may have eaten a lot of food and not worked on his game so much over the offseason. With that being said, he's rounding into form now. So I like Sungjae this week. I like Sahith, as you mentioned, as a little pivot play there. And then Benny An. I mean, the guy's a birdie maker. He's already shown he can do it in elite fields. This is the range where I'm fading the chalk if I play somebody in the 8K range. I got to pay attention to Henley, Homa, Corey Connors, these guys that are really getting a lot of clicks before the tournament. So that's kind of where I'm at in the 8K range.
Fair enough. I got a guy that burned me already at least once this year, but it strikes me that Cameron Young is way underpriced at 7,800.
Yeah, to me, they're trying to lure you in with that one. It's almost like when you see a bet on DraftKings and you're like, the Chiefs are way better than the Raiders. Why are they only favored by 6.5? Then fourth quarter, you're like, how are the Chiefs losing? Like, it feels like that to me. It's not a great comparison, but yeah, I'm cool. I don't really want any of Cam Young. He's not good from the approach ranges that we mentioned. He's been driving it a little sporadically. His putting returned to awful form last week. And I don't think, just mentally, I take that back. He actually gained strokes putting, but lost so much on approach and around the greens that it didn't matter. Just mentally, when he starts going, like, you look at guys, I like to look at guys that when they make a bogey, like Scotty has great bounce back percentage. When he makes a bogey, he almost always comes back with a birdie or at least in the next couple of holes. Cam Young can get on these strings where he's like bogey, bogey, double, bogey. And you're like, what? He was just 3 under. And now he's missing the cut. Like, I don't like where he's at mentally right now for his game. So I am not on Cam. He does make a lot of birdies. So if he flips it, cool. I'm back on your boy Si Woo here. It looks like everyone else is too. But I like Si Woo a lot this week. I knew Tom Kim would get some viewership here, get some interest, but give me Si Woo, Tony at the top of the 7K range. Where are you at in this area?
Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. Maybe my love for Si Woo Kim comes from every time I run these models and simulations, whatever salary range he is in, he's always at the top. It's Si Woo is the top of my 7K range. It's Tony right after that. Those are my 2 guys, and oddly enough, Jason Day keeps popping up every time he's in the field. He does well in these simulations. Does that translate to actual golf for him? Not always. Not always.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it did at Wells Fargo, but he had a stupid week as far as the short game goes, which he'll need again.
No, it's Si Woo, it's Tony, it's Cam Young. Those are the ones that pop in the 7K range. A little further down, I got I don't know, not really anybody in the 7K range. I've got a few 6K range that kind of pops ahead of most of those people.
Okay, no love for the glove this week. You're usually
no love for the glove.
Okay,
not for me.
All right. I think it must be mentioned too. Like Sepp Straka has been playing some great golf. Denny McCarthy has a phenomenal. I couldn't, when I first saw it, I didn't even remember him contending here more than once or being up in the mix. But Denny McCarthy has finished second in T5 in the last 2 seasons at this event, and he's shown that he can ride that hot putter to contention. And I think this is a week where he could do that yet again. I don't love the course setup for him, but dude, he's shown that he can do it here. So I think Denny's due to kind of get that next win, and like I said, he finished second here last year, so I think he's ready to kind of bounce back and maybe make this the week he gets that W.
I don't know about the W, man. That's pretty bold with the names up top. That's pretty bold, sir.
That's true. I mean, in an elite field, you're right. I mean, more likely to top 5. Like if he plays really good golf and Xander or Scotty play really good golf, he's probably not able to stay with him for 4 rounds, but he could definitely contend.
Fair enough. Well, let's get down to the 6K range. A little chalky, but it's probably no surprise to you that my simulation spits out Davis Thompson as the number 1 guy in the 6K range at 6,400. Fairly well above everyone else in the 6K range. What do you think about Davis Thompson?
Yeah, I mean, Davis Thompson definitely disappointed last week. I know he was in your lineup. With that said, I'm not going to look at 1 week on an unfamiliar course and say, you can't play him. Because previous to that, I mean, 4 out of 5 events before that, he was top 25, including a second at the Myrtle Beach Classic. So, yeah, I mean, I think the course sets up well for him. I think if he doesn't get crazy, I don't like playing guys with a lot of rostership here in the 6K range, but if he doesn't get crazy popular, if he stays around 5%, I haven't projected 5%.
I have him at 7.5, which still isn't crazy high.
Yeah, I mean, you need some guys down here. So if you got a Scotty Xander lineup and you went like Jake Knapp, Davis Thompson at the bottom, and then found a couple guys in the 7Ks or upper 6Ks that you like too, I could definitely be all about that.
So everyone's darling last week, Taylor Pendrith, was fine. Not great, not good, fine. He's back down 6,700. The leverage score hates him. Do you as well hate him this week?
I don't know. I haven't even really considered playing him, so I guess I wouldn't say I hate him, but I'm not going to be playing him this week, even at his depressed price. And 7,400 last week, he made a lot of birdies. You got to give him that. Like DraftKings scoring, he did a lot better than he did as far as his finishing position for the tournament. So I did like that. Now, you know who popped last week, had his best week on the frickin' PGA Tour, and we were off of him, is one of my guys you always rip me for playing, Victor Perez.
No, we're done. We don't talk about him anymore. We made an agreement.
He went absolutely nuts last week.
We made an agreement. We don't talk about Victor Perez anymore.
The dude finished third. He gained like 2.5 strokes in the greens. I don't like him this week at all. I just want to mention, like, screw you, Victor Perez. Play like a dipshit at the PGA and then come back and have your best finish out like a couple weeks later, whatever.
Yeah.
It's golf, man. It's hard to predict. But
so another guy I like down here in the 6K range is Patrick Rogers.
Do you?
He pops in the bottle. I don't, you know me. I don't know anything about Patrick Rogers, but he pops in the bottle.
I mean, I don't know. I just don't see the upside for Patrick Rogers. Now I understand we're in the mid 6K range. Like I'm not looking for guys who can win.
All right. Well, let's talk about the guys that we have been on this year in this range. We've got Adam Schenk all the way down to 66. We got Jake Knapp, who actually, he either crushes or gets crushed, but at 62. There's some value down here. We got Matthew Pavon, who rounded out some nice winning lineups for us earlier in the year at 6K flat.
Yeah, no, I do like Knapp this week. He's very good in especially the long approach range. He's long off the tee, so he can reach these par fives and two. He has shown the ability to bounce back off a couple of not great finishes and then contend, like he did at the Byron Nelson, like he did early in the year at the Farmers. I also am looking at guys who have played well on long, difficult golf courses this week because the winning scores here have been 9, 13, and 13 under. It's one of the top 10 most difficult courses on tour every year, at least for the last several. So, yeah, I like Knapp a lot. He has shown that ability playing at a big golf course, a difficult golf course like we mentioned at Farmers. And then you've also got a guy like Seamus Power. Like, I love my patterns here. And with Seamus, it's been cut T12, cut T16, cut. So if you're following me, he's going to be somewhere in like the T15 range this week. That's not really predictive, but I still like it. So yeah, these guys down here, he hasn't been playing well, but Cam Davis's game sets up pretty decent for Memorial also. And as you mentioned, Schenk, like I'm still concerned about his back. He had to withdraw mid-tournament in his last event at the Charles Schwab. He was struggling mightily at that event. This is coming off of a miscut at the PGA. So I don't know. I'm not on him this week, even at this depressed price. But is there any love in your model for Mr. Akshay Bhatia?
Let's see where he rounds out.
He reminds me.
He does. He's my number 2 performer in the 6K range behind Mr. Davis Thompson.
I thought he might be up there because he does remind me. I mean, when he's playing well, and everyone's strokes gain data looks good when you're playing well, but he really kills it on approach when he's on his game. So he had that stretch leading up to his victory where he had gained almost 2 strokes on approach. Now, he hasn't done that super recently. He was still decent at the PGA, kind of didn't do great after making the cut last week. But he is the kind of guy, I think, on this golf course that could pop. It's a little easier on the greens than most. It'll like kind of level the playing field on the greens. So I don't mind a little bit of Akshay love this week. Like we said, we're not going back to Detry, but the guys I like down below, we mentioned Knapp, Seamus Power, Davis Thompson, 64, don't mind. And then up towards the top, Bhatia as a very kind of boomer bust guy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't hate on Detry too bad. He went on a streak where he made us angry. But dude has 3 top 10s and like 2 more top 20s this year. I mean, he's capable of contending.
He is. I think at this particular course, it's such an approach shot course, and again, the greens kind of like level out the ability of guys to putt. You're not going to have a lot of guys who separate with just their putting, and that's really where he does it. So, because he really hasn't shown the ability to have an elite approach week, even one time during all of his events contending. It just hasn't been there. So That's your going to let other people play this week. I can see where you're looking at his finishes, but I think the course just doesn't set up for his game.
So let me ask you a question. Can I avoid Xander and Scotty and play a top-heavy kind of balanced lineup and compete if Scotty and Xander go 1-2? Do I have a chance of winning anyways?
Scotty and Xander win and finish second?
Yeah.
It depends on by how much and how much they separate in DK points, but no, probably not. Like unless all the 7K and 6K chalk just absolutely bombs, that's probably a losing strategy.
Because I really like the way it looks when I start Hideki and Colin, but yeah.
I hear you.
Because I'm looking at that now, and I got Decky, I got Colin, I got Connors, I got Benny Ann, and I'm real happy with that lineup. But then I look at it and go, but man, you know, if Victor comes out and finishes third, if Scotty finishes first and Xander finishes second, I don't have enough points to win.
Yeah, I know. I think it is one of the weeks where the cream's going to rise to the top. Now, if you're talking about, do you want a lineup that's going to finish in the top half of a double up? That's a very viable strategy because you're not risking at the bottom with these volatile guys. If we still miss a cut, even though only 20 or so guys are going to miss the cut.
Yeah. But Adam, we're 10 weeks into our 19-team contest, and neither you or I are in the money right now. So, and we were earlier in the year. We got to get back up there.
Well, there is some game theory strategy with that. Like if you know most of the guys that you're kind of chasing are going to play pretty chalky lineups, then you kind of have to differentiate. And if you hit that week, you can gain 100 to 150 points on somebody in golf. That's the crazy part about it. So
yeah,
it is kind of fun in that way. But yeah, double ups, I could see, that kind of cash game lineup, just because there are a lot of very good players in this field, and that should not be discounted. Like there are some great players in the 8K and 7K range. Siwoo at 7,700 speaks to how strong this field is.
Sure.
I know he's had a couple of rough starts, but come on, man, it's Siwoo. He's had such a consistent season. And he also has good course history here. So I do love Siwoo this week, even though he's going to be popular. If you started like Scotty, Siwoo, and one of the other popular guys in the 7K range, I don't know. You're not going to differentiate that much in the 6K range because these low-priced guys just don't really help your lineups that much unless you get a 2% guy or below. But yeah, I can see the viability for it in that kind of lineup. But, God, for tournaments, it's hard to stomach that, right?
Yeah.
I would rather go like Rory to start it off because people are looking at it like Rory more than Xander. I don't know. And Scotty's right there. If I'm going to play Rory, I'm just going to play Scotty because Rory at a discount is always a pretty viable play in tournaments.
Yeah.
Ownership.
All right. Well, man, I'm so confused this week. I don't even know where I'm going. It's gonna take all day today to figure out where I'm going.
Usually you're good at setting it and forgetting it, as far as I can tell. Like you usually just kind of figure out where you're going, set it, and just go, all right, I'm not gonna think about it.
Yeah. So like the first 5 weeks before our contest started, I was like winning first or third in our small group before the actual money contest started every week. And that was just do this show, set it, forget it. And then, I did well the first few weeks in our contest, and then I started tinkering. So I think you're right. Got to go back to set it and forget it. So I might just set this right back to that Xander Scotty lineup that I set this morning and just forget about it.
I don't think a lot of people are going to start Xander Scotty, at least in our group. So,
well, I think they're all watching. That's the big problem. They all watch us. They want to know what we're thinking.
I'm not getting anything.
All right, buddy. Well, let's do our thing, shall we? Where are you going at the top? Are we just going Scotty?
For me, yes. Yeah, I mean, you do what you want to do, but for me, I can't get away from one Mr. Scott Scheffler.
I like the narrative, right? We got Xander out here screaming at the PGA, telling them they're messing it up, telling them they need new leadership. And he needs to go out here and win and get press time to talk about it more. So I'm going with Xander.
Can we touch on that for one more second? He's absolutely right.
Yeah, no, he's not wrong.
He's absolutely right. He's dead on with what he's saying. Maybe deliver the message in a different way. Like, I don't know what going out and winning this week would prove unless he gets to the podium and he's like, I'd like to thank Jack for putting on a great tournament and F you PGA.
No, that's what I want. You don't get podium time unless you win in the PGA. So
Right? Like, hey, I would be here for it. If you got something to say, go out and win the tournament. Make the guy hand you the trophy. Like, give your respect, pay your respects to Jack, and then be like, listen here, I got something to say. I got this microphone right now. Let's take a minute of it. I'm Xander Schauffele, damn it. You want me in the Radical team? You better fix this shit. You know?
Right? Nope. I like it. All right, I'm going Xander. Where are you going in the mid range?
I just wanted to mention Free Scotty. Free Scotty won. You know, Scotty is now all charges dropped from his ridiculous incident at the PGA. Wanted to say congratulations to him. He can just focus on.
And I liked when they asked him about it. He said, "I don't really want to talk about that."
Yeah, I mean, even after the fact, he's just like, "I'm here to play golf, man." That's why I love Scotty. He's so simple. Once he gets to the golf course, once he's there for that event, he's like, "Yeah, I'm just here to play golf, bro. I don't want to talk about that."
All right, so we're starting heavy on the top. I imagine that this next pick can probably dip into the sevens. But what do you got? What do you got for the next pick?
I think we could dip into the high sevens here. I think with popularity of player, number of clicks included, I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth. I think he makes for a great discount on price as well as his ownership projections. If he stays sub 10%, man, he is a killer compliment to somebody like Scotty or Xander up top.
Well, you know I got to go with Siwoo because I always do.
Siwoo because I always do.
That's right. Can't get up. Can't quit him. I can't quit you, Siwoo. I can't do it. All right, let's get cheap, my friend. I don't know. I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go. Where am I going to go? How am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to play my model. I'm going to play my model. I'm going to do what it tells me to do. That's when I've done the best this year. And I'm going to go Davis Thompson at 64 for my value play.
Hey, I can't hate it. I can't hate it. Damn, I am tempted to go Mr. Jake Knapp. But you know what? I'm going to stick with – he made the cut here last year in his second appearance. I think he's going to keep trending in the right direction. 6,300. Let's go Mr. Seamus Power. It's also a super cool name. It's just fun to say Seamus Power.
It is. I just wish he'd win more so then we could talk about him more. I am going to this tipsy pick, man. I am a slave to the model. I'm a slave to the leverage score. The leverage score is, of course, your point scoring, taking into consideration your salary, taking into consideration your ownership. And I'm going to take the top of the leverage score over at PaterDFS.com, where I get my simulations. And I'm going to go Lee Hodges at 65.
He's top leverage, even with projection, with ownership in play.
I haven't projected at 2.8. You haven't projected at 8.
Crazy.
One of us will be right.
Yeah. I thought 6,300 was my tipsy pick. So you want me to get tipsier?
Do whatever you like, baby.
Yeah.
There's good plays in the 6Ks, so it's not really tipsy, right?
I know. It's like, well, it's also like 10 o'clock in the morning, but we used to actually be tipsy when making these picks in the football show, but
oh gosh, you remember when I used to record the 5-minute clips at 3 a.m.?
Yeah, that didn't. I don't know why you did that.
Amazing.
But, I'm gonna go with Jake Knapp. We talked about him being a long hitter. He's shown the ability to kind of pop at these events after having long stretches of not being in such good form. So 6,200, let's do it. I'm feeling tipsy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, sir, for your picks. As always, make sure you head over to drroto.com. Check out his full breakdown that Mr. Adam White does weekly. Check out Lou Landers, who is crushing the world of fantasy baseball this year, and everything else over drroto.com. For Adam White, I am Johnny Danger, and we're out of here. We'll see you next week for a major, baby.
U.S. Open, baby.
Stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well.